You're watching America Trends. I'm Mary Burt-Godwin, and I love learning new terms, and I've learned one today, which is Mediagrapher. Have you heard that term before?
Yeah.
Oh, you have? I have not. And I'm excited to meet our next guest because she is a brand Mediagrapher and CEO of Solhaus Media, Bernadette Marciniak. Welcome to America Trends.
Thank you so much for having me.
I am thrilled to meet you, and I was looking at your website and all of the amazing content that you have, and so I was learning, it used to be something where people were either photographers or videographers, and they didn't necessarily meet in the middle, but now with technology, I think you can be both, which you are, and that's assuming what the term mediographer means. You do both things, is that correct?
Yes, that is correct. I'm actually surprised that somebody heard that term. I thought I coined it and did something cool, but I'm super glad that it's out there. And I started using it because I wanted to put under an umbrella the fact that I do both photography and videography, and leave it open to whatever else I might do in the visual space.
Well, I love it. And, so you have a background in photojournalism and videography, and you are helping small businesses and entrepreneurs amplify their mission. And I think right now with the space of social media, it's so important to have really good quality mediography, right? It needs to be visually stimulated. It needs to tell a story. So talk to me about how you got started in this business.
Well, it actually did start with my journalism days. I was a reporter, a photojournalist, and a social media video journalist. And really all that came down to is one main thing, and that's that I tell stories, and I tell them very well, specifically about people. Around 2018, I had the opportunity to move to Los Angeles, and that was also the time that I decided I was going to be done with corporate life. Even journalism is corporate life, more so now than ever. And so I had always had an affinity for entrepreneurship and small business ownership, and I decided to marry the two together, of storytelling and my desire to work on my own, and it has served me very, very well.
So was photography your first love, or video?
Well, out of those two, photography was definitely my first love. I didn't even learn videography until about 2016, 2017, and I had been doing photography in a professional capacity since 2012, though I had been doing it also as a hobby way before then. There's tons of photos of me as a child with a camera in my hand. And I kind of got forced into doing videography, which I have to say I was very resistant to at the beginning, but it has definitely been one of those blessings in disguise.
Well, I feel like the term videographer has a negative connotation from back, 15, 20 years ago. And it was a wedding videographer. It was just kind of not something anyone aspired to be. But now there's so much that can be done with it. And it's really, brands need to hire videographers and people that can tell stories like you're mentioning. And do you think that there's some stereotypes surrounding video and what, using a videographer is, and how you can maybe break those stereotypes?
Yeah, well, you're right on the money in that it definitely does have a stereotype, especially in the field that I work in. I work with a lot of women entrepreneurs, and videography has very much been and still is a boys' game. And so I know that the approach to videography has always been a little bit more masculine. And I think that's why this kind of stigma comes, especially from the entrepreneurial space, female entrepreneurs specifically, when they think about videography. And there's only really been one way of going about it, which is that masculine approach. I like to say that I approach it with a feminine perspective, with a lot of empathy and compassion. And that's what I'm hoping to bring to the table when I work with small business owners and entrepreneurs, whether they are male or female. It's needed in both spaces.
Well, one thing that I loved about your website, and this maybe ties into what you're talking about, is that you have, I think, on the bottom of your home page, something about your belief system and what people can expect when they work from you. And we talk on the show a lot about not needing to please everyone out there in the space, in the world, because we simply can't. And a lot of times, you know, right now it's about know, liking, and trusting who you work with. And we want to find our niche and reach those people instead of trying to reach everyone, really reach the people that we know we can connect with in the business space. And I feel like you do that right there on your homepage. You're like, hey, this is me. So if you like what I'm saying here, work with me and we're going to make a good team. And I think especially with what you're talking about with video, because it's kind of a vulnerable position to be in front of a camera, whether it's photos or video. And so you know, are just right there saying, hey, this is me, let's get vulnerable and let's make a good marriage together here almost, right? A working relationship. Was that in your brain when you put that on your homepage?
To be honest, I definitely felt a little bit of fear around doing it at first, because there is this old school train of thought that if you put yourself out there and get that vulnerable, you'll be closing yourself off from potential business. This is a very interesting conversation to have right now as I'm visiting with my mom, who tells me that all the time. She's like, you're pushing away potential clients. What are you doing? But I've had so many more clients come to me in the last few years when I put that out there and tell me that they hired me specifically because I laid out my values front and center on my website, and I wanted, you know, to let everybody know where I stand. And the more vulnerable you start being, the easier it becomes. And so I've developed a comfort zone in being vulnerable. And I know that there's a little bit of a stigma around being vulnerable and, you know, how much do you actually have to share about yourself? But it's part of your story, and storytelling is a huge part of marketing your business in a way that's going to attract your ideal audience.
Well, the market is certainly saturated. There's lots of photographers and videographers out there, or self-proclaimed people in the space. And so in order, I think, in this day and age to stand out and reach a customer that is going to know, like, and trust you and keep coming back, you do need to set yourself apart, which you're doing. And so I think it's very commendable. And I think that it helps the people that you're working with. Like I said, it's going to help them feel good behind the camera. So I know we have to wrap up soon. So I want to tell people they can find you at Bernadette Marciniak. Am I saying that right?
Yes, you are.
Marciniak.com and at Bernadette Marciniak on Instagram. And you know, you do photos and videos, and you also have an upcoming Pix to Flix 8-week program for photographers. Is that correct?
That is correct. I am, you know, seeing that there was a little bit of a gap in the market with videographers who look like me.
Yeah.
I understand why or what the blocks are in terms of taking on videography.
So they need to come look you up.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you so much for being here, Bernadette. I hope you'll come back and talk to us more. I want to talk to you about your 1-hour stylings that you do too. So thank you so much, BernadetteMarciniak.com, Bernadette Marciniak on Instagram. And thank you so much for tuning into America Trends. We'll be right back right after this quick break.